My name is Jack Cheesbrough. I'm the Operations Director at I-Plan. We're a solution vendor in the integrated business planning space, and we focus quite specifically on manufacturing businesses within our solution space. So recently I was at the Gartner Supply Chain Summit hype conference of technologies. As expected, it was AI mania. But whilst in these discussions, I did stumble on a very interesting research note. It was all about adoption levels for supply chain planning tools. And the points were made, supply chain planning applications remain the number one tool for supply chain transformation. But staggeringly, about 40% of planners had actually adopted the tools. And 58% of planners had reported that they still had issues at go live when it came to doing and fulfilling their jobs. Now, that's not all solutions. There are adoption champions. And in these organizations, the adoption rate increases to 80%. And about 16% of those planners had concerns at the point of go live. Now, the conference was all about what can organizations do to become more adoption ready, how that they can build in KPIs into adoption. But it had me wondering about what are the solution vendors doing in this space in order to try and improve adoption of the software. And that's the question I'd like to cover quickly in our slot today. So who are we and why are we talking about this space? As said, we're an integrated business planning provider. We're pioneers of prescriptive analytics with the use of AI as part of our tool in terms of functionality. We've been a cloud solution provider since 2000, and we're absolute enthusiasts around agile implementation methods in order to drive adoption of our software. And we're a UK company headquartered in the UK. There's two parts to our software, really. We have our modular setup, which allows implementation of sales and operations planning workflows, sales and operations execution workflows. And then we have our implementation methodology. And this is what really helps to drive business process design and delivery within our tool. So where are vendors currently focusing their efforts? Well, functionality is not necessarily the issue. Everyone's focusing on functionality, and this is critical. We have to have viable plans which work for organizations. But generally, there is lots of functionality, and we're struggling to get to the application of some of, there's too much functionality in some cases. But then user experience, and this is not just, it's not just the user interface, it's not just how the software looks, but it's the explainability of the tool, performance, usability of the tool, which is lagging. And secondly, training and adoption. This is not just what buttons to click in the software, but it's about how do I use the tool in order to fulfill my role as a planner in an organization. So how does user experience improve adoption? Well, Martin described it earlier as a data lake, a data swamp. There is lots of data within our organization, but often little information that we can use to make decisions with. When software helps us turn data into information, it helps our planners move from analysis into taking action. And tools are very good in this area of descriptive analytics. This is hindsight, what happened in the past, charts, reports, dashboards. We're pretty good at that stuff. We can do that, but we can do that in Excel. Then we move into predictive analytics. This is insights, what might happen in the future. What would the impact of my scenario be if I bring in these elements? But the area we need to move into is how can we make that outcome happen? And this is that area of prescriptive analytics. So what do adoption-focused vendors think about when it comes to the development of their software and the application of their software? Well, usability and navigation. It's 2024. We didn't dream of coming to work to stare at 1980s screens. It's got to be intuitive. It's got to be easy to use. It's got to be useful. Collaboration. It's got to be cloud-based. We're collaborating across a global organization, across a supply chain. There's no way we can do this inside thick client applications. We're expecting optimization to performance to be instant. We want to be able to run multiple scenarios during the pre-S&OP meeting, potentially even during the S&OP meeting. It's got to be rapid. We want help, and we want help in the tool that we can have a conversation with. We want to be able to get the answer to our questions very, very quickly, and we want it to be able to tell us, whilst looking at this part of the process, how can the tool support me in that process? And explainability. I want to be able to explain the result of the scenario, of the forecast, to my boss in the meeting, allowing them to buy into and justify the plan that we're coming up with. And I want to help with prioritizing. I want warnings. I want to know the things that I should be thinking about. So here's my top tip when it comes to artificial intelligence in supply chain planning solution space. There's going to be more value gained from artificial intelligence in the area of user adoption than in functionality alone. Think about the conversation that you want to have with your tool. I want to summarize this report, this chart, this dashboard. I want it instantly. I want it in this unit of measure, and I don't want to spend 2 hours in Excel doing pivot tables in order to come up with that answer. There's loads that can be done in functionality, machine learning, in forecasting, and we do lots of that in I-Plan ourselves. But user experience is the area that artificial intelligence can really help with this process, and that's somewhere I would urge everybody to have a look at. So what things should we be measuring when it comes to training and adoption? Well, there's UX, user experience metrics. So is the workflow being adopted? How many alternative solutions are we using in order to come up with our sales and operations plan? How much Excel are we using in order to come up with our sales and operations plan? What are our user satisfaction rates? How many hours a month are users working in the tool? And how many issues are users raising with the tool itself? Then we think about automation. How much work is the software able to do for us that takes that off the hands of the planners so they can think about taking action? So what's the plan acceptance rate? How many manual changes are being made per month to the plan? What is the forecast accuracy that the system can create? And also, what's the forecast value add that is coming from the changes made by planners? And how much of my SKUs in my portfolio can I plan autonomously without touching them? And then efficiency. So what is the speed of the decision making? What is the cycle time of my demand planning process, my supply planning process? How quickly do I get to a sales and operations plan? So what do we do in I-Plan? Well, we consider ourselves an adoption-focused organization. We start by having a comprehensive implementation library. So all the functionalities in I-Plan and each of our modules, we describe in detailed user stories to allow users to define their own business processes using our functionality. We have an agile implementation approach, which means incremental value is delivered through the process. We have an extensive training toolkit. And we have continuous customer success processes. So just to share a little bit about what we do in terms of implementation and adoption in I-Plan. This is an example of our backlog. Every function within the demand planning process, supply planning process, production planning process, and inventory planning process is documented, detailed in user stories that users can use as a menu in order to define their business process within our tool. Users build and configure their own business processes rather than being forced down a process that is dictated by the software when it comes to the way we configure our software. Implementation approach, we use an agile implementation methodology. It's all about incremental delivery, incremental value, but users are trained throughout the process so that they are super users by the time that they complete the implementation. In-course training tools. the ability to work in the tool in order to get training, and also having the tools accessible to users so that they can train in their own time rather than during that block in the Gantt chart where we say users will now be trained. And finally, customer success. We have continuous feedback loops to understand what's going well, what's not going well, what we can improve. Outcome is our users become our advocates for the software. So what do our customers say? Well, we love to hear reports of things like David Miso, 35% reduction, 35% improvement in forecast accuracy, 20% reduction in inventory. These are business performance benefits which are critical and fundamental to their return on investment. But it's also brilliant for us to receive feedback about the process, the adoption, the way they feel about the software, the way it makes their lives easier going to work each day. So RDM, our customer, describe I-Plan as the beating heart of their S&OP process, running 40 scenarios a month from various team members to come to a consensus plan. Fedrigoni describe I-Plan, this is an Italian company, they describe it as not just software, but it's a different way of working. And then our most recent customer I've been working with, Arian, he really was just focusing on the precision and expertise of which I-Plan was implemented. So it's the methodology, the customer success processes, and the ability for I-Plan to be easily adopted. So before I finish, we're outside at the booth. I haven't showed any of I-Plan today, but if you'd like to see I-Plan, the tool itself, you can come visit us outside. Grab a copy of our S&OP Buyer's Guide. We're launching that today. We've got copies out at our booth. It goes through various different topics. We have 4 different flavors of S&OP that you can have a conversation with. Some Irish, some Finnish, some English, and some pseudo-Dutch. So come and have a conversation with us. And I'll finish on this. This is what we cover, what we have in terms of our scope. So any questions you have in the strategic planning space, network design, investment appraisal, annual budgeting, we can help with that, including inventory strategy, what to make to order, what to make to stock, that kind of analysis. Then as we move into tactical planning, we've got tools and skills for demand management, demand planning, supply optimization, and sales and operations planning. And then we move into execution. We can help with inventory optimization, order promising, transport planning. So please come and introduce yourselves and have a conversation with us. Thank you very much.